floats it. Back corner for Adams. He pulls it in and gets his feet in. Touchdown. Toss to White. He's in. Patriots win the Super Bowl.
All right. Welcome to a new edition of Inside the Pylon. Fidel Barraza here alongside Walter Stringer from Lions Avenue. Walt, what's going on, man?
Man, ain't nothing going on but the playoffs. See, we made it to another week 18. 18 weeks, man. I know it was not making fun, but I know it was rough for the Raiders. I love the Raiders, man. Got a lot of love for the Raiders from all the way up here in Michigan. Just hope you guys finally get things turned around. Trust me, I understand how rough these rebuilds can be when you're going through one seemingly as a fan every 3 years, 2 years. GM gone, coach gone, combination gone, team president gone, offense coordinator gone. Like you need continuity. I'm pulling for you guys.
Yeah, man. It's been about 24 years essentially of rebuilding. A couple of good years, but not
Look
too many.
at us. Dude, it's almost as if it's divine intervention for all of it to come together at the same time. Ownership, GM, head coach, OC, DC, everybody's joined at the hip. You know, I'm not like constantly bigging up the Lions, but I think the Lions are becoming pretty much that model franchise for a lot of other impoverished franchises who can't seem to get it right. It took us forever to get it right, you know, but we got the right GM, we got the right head coach, got the right OC and DC, and things are going. But I think more than anything else, what's really helped us is the fact is the continuity.
Yeah.
Things get great when guys are allowed to, or the program itself is allowed to stay together for 5 years or 4 years. And quarterback doesn't have to be the most talented, but if he plays within the same system for 4 years with the same wide receivers and the same quarterback coach and the same OC, he should have success. So, you know, I just think that teams, if they can start being more patient, because when we started 1-6, year 2 of the rebuild, there were people around here that wanted Dan Campbell fired. And if this organization would have been hasty and fired that man, who knows where we would be right now.
Yeah, and let's talk about the Raiders. Obviously, they made news again today. They fired general manager Tom Telesco. They fired Antonio Pierce a couple of days back, and it looks like a fresh start. It's going to be a rebuild, essentially, right? They're going to be picking 6 overall in this year's NFL draft. I mean, obviously, Tom Brady's going to have a huge influence over what Mark Davis and company are going to be doing moving forward. I read that he is going to be part of the interview process. Now, how that interferes with his NFL Fox broadcasting deal, not too sure. But I mean, look, I think Tom signed like a 10-year contract, right? He's getting paid like $34 or $36 million a year. The team doesn't have a GM. So, I mean, if I'm Mark Davis, why don't you just pay Tom whatever he wants and let him be the GM?
You and I recently just talked about this.
We did.
And, you know, the John Lynch turned out to be a pretty good GM. Brad Holmes, although he didn't have a great pro career for the most part, but he was a defensive player. A lot of these, not to say it's only defensive players or it's only like lower key players, but it seems like the greats, if you go across all 4 major sports, the greats don't typically make the best GMs, you know. And I think even here in Detroit, Lions fans know a lot about the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings are actually going through a very painful rebuild right now.
Yeah, they are.
With an all-time great, you know. So it's kind of hit or miss when it comes with it. I just think that we have a tendency to put so much emphasis and high expectations on these great players. We assume that since you're this figure that we saw, this godly-like figure that we saw on television for the past 20 years of our lives, that means that you're going to be great at picking talent. You're going to be great at evaluating it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be great in the key moments of being a GM when it's time to make a move. Do you know when to make the move? Do you know how to make the right move?
Yeah.
Also, when it comes to hiring coaches, meshing with people, personality, people assume that Tom was going to be a great broadcaster. And I don't think he was as bad as people made him out to be. I think a lot of it was Tom Brady hate
Yeah,
from a lot
of
of
course.
people. Yeah. But he wasn't the best, but what the hell did you expect from him? Like, this is the first time he
But
did
hey,
it.
man, the amount of money they offered him,
Yeah.
of
I
course,
think they were paying him for his insight.
yeah. But let's go back. I want to go kind of backwards, right, from last year, right? Obviously, with the Raiders firing Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, I think it was on Halloween night. They elevated Antonio Pierce to be the head coach. They had a strong finish. Players like Devontae Adams, Max Crosby vouch for Pierce, and I think Max even went on record saying like, "Hey, like essentially, if you guys don't keep Pierce, like I want to get traded." Right? So now, kind of looking at it a year later, Devontae Adams didn't even last the whole season with the Raiders. He demanded a trade, right? And then Max is just probably just tired of a rebuild, and that's essentially what this is going to be, right? Um, I don't know if Antonio Pierce should have got the job last year, to be honest with you. And I know he had good momentum ending the season well and all that, but I mean, if you really think about it, and look, I don't know if Jim Harbaugh was interested or not, and I would maybe say he would, right? But or other coaches, right? They really didn't interview too many options in last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, you would know better than I would. You're
Or at least if
closer.
they interviewed someone, I kind of figure like, hey, like if your best player is telling you like, if you don't keep this man, I want to get traded. Then of course Mark listened to his players and he did what he did, and now we're back to square one.
You swung and missed. Now you got to keep on going. I mean, simple as that. You and I both talked about this last offseason, right after this end of the season. And we talked about how, okay, you know what? The guy came in, he galvanized the locker room when the debacle happened with,
Yeah,
was I'm about to say Chase Daniels. Josh McDaniels, when that debacle happened,
yeah,
he stepped in. He was a breath of fresh air. He was a football player, number
yeah.
one, first and foremost. And I think football players adapt to other football players. Same thing if you look at the NBA, players respect other players. They respect people who have actually been through it with them.
Mhm.
And I guess he was in over his head, you
But here's
know?
the other thing. Well, I think Mark Davis was trying to make it right from a couple of years ago when he had Rich Bisaccia
Yeah.
that took over for John Gruden in the middle of the season. They made the playoffs, and players wanted him to keep Rich as a coach. He obviously did not. He left for Green Bay. He's a special teams coach there now. And basically, I probably should have kept Rich. I don't want to make the same mistake again. And, things didn't work out. But I mean, Antonio Pierce, I don't think he was in a position to succeed anyways with the quarterback that they paid. And Gardner mentioned the last offseason, right? Injuries,
Yeah.
just a lot of different things. But still, I mean, it's a results oriented business. And this team, I think, lost 10 games in a row. So
Yeah, letting Jacobs leave, even though
that,
Jacobs
that was a big
kind of
one,
wanted
too.
to. Yeah, the whole Devontae Adams situation. Um, the Aiden O'Connell experiment not working out. Paying Christian Wilkins what you paid Christian Wilkins and not pretty much getting much from him this season. It's been rough, man.
It
It's been
has been
rough,
very rough.
but that's what happens when you have so many questionable drafts. And this goes back 5+ years. I witnessed it
We,
here.
we we talked about it a couple of days ago.
Bad draft after bad draft. It kills the morale.
It
And
does.
you're rotating coach in and out. It's rough, man. It's rough. And I think that, this is probably the most pivotal head coach hiring the Raiders may ever make, man. Because
Yes.
now, if you look around the rest of the NFL, AFC alone,
AFC West.
this
Well,
murder is real. How the hell do you expect to make it out of the AFC without a quarterback? Or
think
even
about
if
all.
you do have a quarterback, you don't have a roster.
Yeah.
Then
Well, think
Jim
about the
Harbaugh
coaches.
shows up with the Chargers and whips them into shape within 1 year.
Well, that's what he does. That's what he does,
Yes,
man.
he
So,
puts together quality football teams.
and look, you think about the coaches in that division alone, right? You got Andy Reid, you got Sean Payton, and you got Jim Harbaugh.
Hmm.
So we'll see what they do as far as the GM and coaching decisions, what they're going to do moving forward. I know Ben Johnson's going to be in for, or not in,
Ah.
but Zoom interview tomorrow afternoon. Why do you
Okay.
laugh? Come on. You
We're
don't think?
giving you complete control, Ben.
I don't think they should do that either. But
But they don't even have like they don't even really have an enticing enough pick.
number 6.
Yeah. So like if you're the Raiders, I mean, you're sitting in no man's land. Let's say you decide to stay put, and everything stays status quo to what we expect quarterback wise. So we expect Cam Ward to be gone before pick 6. Shador Sanders, we expect him to be gone before pick 6. A guy like Nussmeier from LSU, whose name is Catching Steve, even though he's been a hot name all season since last season. He could possibly be gone. You know how quickly these quarterback names catch fire and then they're off the board. You can't even really move back.
And here's the thing: there's 3 quarterback needy teams that are ahead of them. Right? You got Tennessee's drafting first overall, I believe. You got Cleveland drafting at, what is it, 2?
Yep.
And I don't know if you saw the news. I know you probably did. Deshaun Watson's rehab took like a step back. Don't know what that means, but
yeah. Now you got Giants at number 3.
And you got the Giants at 3. So you got 3 teams that are probably going to draft a quarterback. But again, there's only 2 that are kind of standing out right now. Shador and Cam.
I mean, honestly, I can see Tennessee moving that pick because, like I said, I while I don't believe they're going to stick with Will Levis, I think ultimately they're going to go ahead and go with a veteran. It's the best move for Callahan, if you're being honest, because, like I said, the roster competing in that division, they should be not a lot better, but they should be better than what they are. You put C.J. Stroud on that roster, and they're probably a playoff team. You're being honest about it. They're not that bad. You look at Tavondre Sweat, you ask around the NFL, he was low-key one of the 5 most dominant rookies in the league this year. And he had a lot of questions coming out. So you have that as a building block. You have Jeffrey Simmons right next to him. You don't have to necessarily reach for another quarterback. Now, unless you love one of these quarterbacks, and that goes for the Raiders too. If they get the working people out and they like Shador enough to go move him, to go get him. But, there's always the politics involved. There's behind-the-scenes stuff. Well, I don't want my son to play for this franchise or that franchise. You think Deion wants Shador to go to Cleveland?
He's been on record saying that, that he's going to be, pretty careful on where his kids go.
So what do you say?
Oh, and then also, too, Tennessee needs a new GM as well. We're going to mention that.
Absolutely.
Ran out in Tennessee as well. All right. So, again, who would you say, and I know I'm kind of catching you off guard, but 3rd best quarterback that you think in the draft this year so far? Is it Jackson Dart?
Ooh, Dart? No. If I go through this list real quick, because I just want to get a nice visual of it, because it's kind of hard to get a gauge on. I don't want to miss any names or whatnot. So if I go to this actual list of quarterbacks, Cam Ward, Shador Sanders. Oddly enough, PFF has Dylan Gabriel.
Oh, I forgot about him.
5'11".
Yeah.
As the 3rd overall quarterback right now, as the 49th overall prospect. Honestly, if I'm a bet on anybody, because once you start talking about guys like Carson Beck decided to stay in school and transfer.
He's transferring. And the news is he's probably going to go to Miami.
Good for him. Yeah. I'm intrigued by Quinn Ewers. Quinn may stay in college. I think.
I saw something that a team or someone offered him, was it $1 million to stay in college? I forget, but something like that.
If I was him, I'd leave. I mean, you've been beat up enough. You haven't played enough college as it is, and in the college that you have played, you've been beat up. But if we're talking about just like natural arm talent, the ability to be able to put the ball wherever you need him to be able to put it with touch, with accuracy, he's a little not inaccurate, but he's a little inconsistent at times. I think because he's played so many games here and there, his career in college has been pretty up and down as far as the injuries, but he's very intriguing. But you're talking about a guy who's probably 6'1", 180 something pounds, 190. He's also not the biggest guy either. I think Jalen Milroe. Now it all depends on how people typecast him. Because
Well, how
I think
would
there's
you?
going to be people in the league that are going to see Anthony Richardson, and I think he's a way better player than Richardson coming out. He's way better natural thrower
More
of football.
experience, right?
Yeah, more experience as well. But there's people who are going to see Anthony Richardson and they're going to compare him to him, which I think is completely unfair. Completely unfair because there were a decent amount of red flags about Richardson coming out of Florida. But I think Milroe's probably out of all three of those guys the most physically talented. I don't think he's even close between him, Shador, and Cam.
All right. I want to ask you this. In your opinion, which way do you think the Raiders should go? Do you think they should go with an offensive-minded coach, defensive-minded coach? Who do you think would be their best option, at least for a GM position? I'm thinking that they probably want to get someone that's been experienced, that's been there, kind of done that kind of deal, right?
I go back to us because that's not what we did. We had advisors. Well, this team from the top needed advisory bad, but we had advisors that directed us in the direction of the Rams to Brad Holmes. I think, but those were also ladies running the organization, so I don't know how non-stubborn men may be. So I don't know how the Raiders may feel about asking for help. But
they got help. It's Tom Brady.
Okay.
I mean,
we hoping it works. We hoping it works, but
it's just the way it is.
I think just get the right coach.
Yeah.
Our head coach was a tight ends coach.
Yeah, but here's the difference, though. You guys traded for a quarterback that had gone to the Super Bowl. Yeah, he had his issues, right? But I mean, he had been there. You know,
he was viewed as trash.
He was.
Be
I'm saying,
honest.
but he had accomplished several things, and wasn't he drafted first overall?
Yeah, but he was viewed as trash. He could have easily came here to Detroit and fell apart.
Well, look, one man's trash is another man's treasure. How the saying goes.
Well, I gave you guys Jameis Winston a few weeks ago, and you turned it down.
Man, I don't want Jameis Winston.
I
don't want no more turnover. I want someone that's going to be there for a while.
But what are you going to do at 6 then? Because let's say you don't move up, and all the big name guys are gone. You're not going to stay at 6 and reach. So what do? You go out and sign somebody in free agency. You're going to go ahead and give Darnold $22 million.
Well, what did they do last year? They didn't trade up, and Tom Telesco never liked to trade up in drafts, so they took the best available player available, and they drafted Brock Bowers, which he's the best tight end in the league right now. He's probably going to make the All-Pro team.
Well, JPJ was good too.
Yeah, he was.
So you guys, that's building blocks. That's what I'm saying. So
it all goes back to who the coach is going to be and what they're looking to accomplish, because obviously the connection's there between Sanders and Tom. Didn't Tom help him train during the offseason?
Tom helps lots of quarterbacks.
Okay, what about Deion Sanders? Look, I'm hearing a lot of shit that Deion Sanders, they're kind of like a package deal. Shador, is it Shiloh, his other son, right?
And Shiloh Sanders.
Yeah. But I mean, you're drafting 6. Sanders probably going to be gone by then if they don't trade up.
But with all due respect, man, why are the Raiders viewed as such a good job? Is it because it's California?
It's not California. It's Nevada.
Well, it's Vegas now, it's right. But it's always been, who doesn't want to be a Raider and this and that. But
no state income tax. No state income tax. That's attractable. You got a new stadium.
I can go to Florida for that.
Okay. You can go to Florida, and hurricanes and whatnot happen there. So,
I get it, man.
They got some pieces. They don't have a lot, but they have a few.
But the Raiders do, and I got love for the Raiders. The Raiders been bad for so long. The Jets had the longest drought of 14 years. They've never been viewed as a good job. The Browns have never been viewed as a good job. But the Raiders is like, for Deion to just say, yeah, I'll do the Raiders. It is like, but they're not good. So does upper management matter at all to these people? Or is it all, not to say the fix is in, but so is it already in for, they knew Tom was going to take care of this and that? And do they already know who the coach is going to be? You got all the answers? Because to me, it's like, there's so much.
I wish I did. And look, I shared some news with you on Sunday, and I was completely wrong, so I don't know anything. Right?
Yeah, he was wrong like a few hours later.
I think a day after, 24 hours. But hey, you
Man,
asked and I told you. And that's
yeah.
just what I heard. And, and obviously that things change and whatnot. Look, I think Tom had a big influence in all this, firing Antonio Pierce, firing Tom Telesco. I mean, he's got to have somebody in mind that he wants to hire. I know that there was rumors that, he called Bill Belichick to
Yeah.
see, he would be interested in coming back.
You want to
But I
ditch
don't know.
those kids?
Yeah, yeah. Bill's been on the recruiting trail since he got hired with his 27-year-old girlfriend.
When he called Bill, he was out there drinking milkshakes, eating McDoubles with his
Yeah,
hat
that's
on
right.
backwards, talking to teenagers.
Yeah. Um, so I don't know, man. I really don't know. I did read that they're interested in entering Todd Munkin, the OC for the Baltimore Ravens, formerly at Georgia. Aaron Glenn is going to get interviewed as well with the Raiders, I believe. Pete Carroll's name has been out there. Pete 72, looking to get back in the league. I think Chicago would make a lot of sense for him, but I mean, I don't know. So it's going to be interesting, man. We'll see. We'll see what happens with this team, and it's going to be another wild offseason for the Raiders.
I would honestly say, and you and I had talked about this earlier, if we're just talking about Lions hires, while Ben Johnson is like the offensive genius or whatnot, it's difference between knowing plays and knowing how to call plays and put guys in the right positions to be successful and being a leader of men. You know, Dan Campbell may not be now, and I don't discredit him as much as a lot of other people do. People have this idea, this unearned idea about him that he's just some big galoot who just gets everybody motivated and does no X's and O's. You don't hang around in the NFL as long as he's been around in the NFL or in football period without knowing X's and O's. Now, can you call plays? That's an art. But everybody knows X's and O's that's actually in the league. The guy spent how much time with Sean Payton? I just think that I would say for the Raiders, Aaron Glenn probably would be a better hire.
And we talked about that. We talked
Yeah,
about that earlier.
yeah. I would say bring him in. I'm pretty sure they're going to bring him in if they haven't already. He's going to interview very well.
Yeah.
He's going to get that defense together first and foremost more than anything else. You give him some nice building blocks on offense, defense. Because I think more than anything else, you can't have a bad defense and no quarterback.
No.
And it's easier to get decent to pretty good defensive players than it is to get a really good quarterback. It's real easy to go draft a D- quarterback or F quarterback or a C+ quarterback that's not good enough to get a bad roster to 8 wins. I personally, and you and I talked about this repeatedly, I would rather have 3 really good players over an average ass quarterback. I can't do it.
Yeah.
The average quarterback stuff, because I see how a lot of teams were able to get things done. And you can have a really good quarterback all you want. Unless he's a superstar, unless he's a mutant like Josh Allen, who's going to overcome whatever situations you put him in front of, those guys don't grow on trees.
Yeah.
I personally, if I'm the Raiders, if you don't want to move up and get a quarterback, just move back. Get more picks and make sure whoever you bring in here at GM, head coach, OC, whatever, make sure they have enough resources to be successful.
They do have an additional pick in the 3rd round via the
Yeah.
Devontae Adams trade. Something that I saw today that was kind of funny to me. I laughed actually when I saw it. Is that the Patriots requested to interview Aaron Glenn, and he denied. He said no. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I think there's people around the league that didn't take kindly to how Mayo was treated.
And then you saw
You're a
the interview,
Gronk,
right?
but you're a Grunt before Fox cut
They
him
cut him off.
Gronk was getting ready to loosen his shirt up.
Yeah, he was. So
I didn't expect him to be that blunt.
yeah, so they interviewed Pep Hamilton, I believe. And then I forget
Pep's
who else.
still getting those token interviews, huh?
Yes, exactly. Kind of where I was going to. I mean, at this point, the Rooney Rule. I mean, what do you make of it? I mean, because we know teams are just doing interviews to check the box, essentially. Some teams, not all teams.
Yeah, I think headed into like the head coach free agency every year, there's probably a list of black coaches that are realistically going to be given opportunities.
Mm.
Aaron Glenn's one of them. I think Aaron Glenn could have gotten the job last year, chose not to. Don't know which job, because we don't understand how things are really unfolded behind the scenes. So some of these guys, I think, are positioning themselves for jobs that may open up a year or two from now.
Yeah.
That could have been a couple years ago. But there's more black coaches getting jobs now, getting opportunities. You're looking at these coaching trees. Well, the coaching trees are still kind of biased towards whoever they're biased towards ultimately. But
Yeah.
the college jobs, the coordinator jobs, we're becoming the linebacker coaches. And it all depends on what culture you go to. You look at, and I'm going to go back to the Lions because this turns into a Raider Lions show. But, things are set up here. And when you hear coaches who have been here and left have also said it's fair here. If you look at us, our linebacker coach, he was brought here to train under Aaron Glenn to become a defensive coordinator. So more than likely, when Aaron Glenn decides to leave, he's going to step in as the yes. If Ben Johnson leaves, people worry, well, if you guys lose Ben Johnson, what are you going to do? Well, the core of everything else at the root of it is still here. And more than likely, the passing game coordinator, Ingstrand, will probably either step in. Usually that's who steps in as the OC anyway. Either that, you may have a running backs coach who is Scotty Montgomery, who was actually the head coach at East Carolina a couple years ago. So
is
if
Mark
you follow
Brunell,
with the Patriots,
Mark Brunell still on staff?
Yeah, he's the quarterback's coach.
Quarterback coach.
I think Mark is set into what he likes doing. Mark said he loves being the quarterback's coach. I'm pretty sure Mark Brunell, people have offered him. That's a bright football mind. So
yeah,
he's been offered opportunities to be OCs before, but he loves what he does. He's one of those people that genuinely loves teaching the position. So Mark's not going anywhere. Although can't say that because when you win, they want everybody. They want your ball boys. They want the water boys. They want the cheerleaders. They want the backup quarterback. They want everybody.
Yeah. Well, going back to 2003, which was a long time ago, when the Patriots won the Super Bowl, Romeo Cornell was going to, leave to be the Browns head coach, and Charlie Weiss went to Notre Dame, right? And there was, certain, coaches that left that team to go take other jobs because, just how you said it, when teams win, everyone wants their coaches, players, etc. So,
well, we're gonna find out how good this Dan Campbell tree is, huh?
Yeah, we're about to find out, man. Because I don't see this coaching staff come back. I think they're going to take jobs.
Well, story did come out today that it's not.
Ben Johnson is going to be very selective.
It's not a guarantee. Yeah, I mean there's coach vacancies for a reason. Unless you have a situation where a really good team has a head coach that decides to retire, you're not going to get some great position.
Don't go to Jacksonville. Stay away from Jacksonville.
Well, yeah. Well, let's be honest. If you look at the top 10 at Tankathon, you got Tennessee at 1, Cleveland at 2, the Giants at 3, Pats at 4, Jags at 5, Raiders at 6, Jets at 7, Panthers at 8, Saints at 9, Bears at 10. What is the best job there? And I understand a lot of times by default, people will say, well, the team with the number 1 overall pick because they control the entire draft. I would be prone to believe that too, because that is a decent roster in Tennessee. And they do have options at quarterback. They can always go. They have cap space. They can always go sign a veteran to be a bridge till maybe next year or the year after. If you want the kid from Tennessee or the Manning kid, he's going to be very selective too.
Yeah.
Well, they may like him in Tennessee.
But best team out of all those, man, that's a hard question because with Tennessee, you don't know who the GM is going to be. Once they hire a GM, I don't know. He might like you as head coach, or he's going to want to bring in his own guy. So maybe you get 2 years at the most. If they do not have success, I think the Giants job should be open, but it's not. And they're staying put, and they're going to run it back with Brian Daboll. So,
but we got to factor in ownership too.
Okay, the worst one, in my opinion, is Jacksonville.
Trent Baalke.
You fire the head coach Doug Peterson, and you kept Trent. Why? Why is still there? And I even read something that's saying that, that some people will not be interested in the job because Trent Bulk is there.
Well, yeah, that, and there's also a perception around the league that your quarterback got a good coach fired.
Well, he did. He won a Super Bowl with the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And
Your
he had a
rookie
good
wide
run too.
receiver was the best player on offense.
Yep.
It's a bad look, man. A bad
Horrible look.
But even though, listen, Trevor's not bad. He's just
But
not.
he's not great.
He's not really that. Yeah, he's not really that good. I don't.
Yeah.
Let's not even get into the Trevor discussion.
We'll do that for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, basically, we just wanted to hop on here. It's been a while since I've been on, and wanted to, join me. And we had some plans, but those didn't come through, and we decided to record a little episode and kind of talk about some things that we wanted to talk about. Big weekend. We got NFL wildcard weekend starting Saturday. We got Houston hosting the LA Chargers, and then you got nightcap Pittsburgh going to Baltimore, and then Sunday you got Denver going to Buffalo. Who's the following game? I know the Tampa and Commanders game is a late game.
Yeah. Was it Rams and Vikings?
Rams and Vikings Monday night.
Yeah.
Who am I missing?
Eagles Packers.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eagles Packers, and that should be an interesting matchup. Jalen Hurts, it looks like he is going to be able to play. He was a full participant in practice. Yeah, so look, man, we got a huge weekend ahead of us. We're hoping to get back on. Yes, go ahead.
Last question. Wildcard weekend. What player in wildcard weekend has the most to prove? Or coach?
Damn, that's a good question. Right off the bat, I'm going to say C.J. Stroud. Because he's been struggling.
Why him? He's a kid.
Hey, look, he's been struggling. He made the playoffs last year. He won a wild card game against the Browns. Lost against Baltimore, I believe, in the divisional round. I think it's him. And then maybe Justin Herbert, just because that ugly loss a couple of years back. That we're up by 30 points against Jacksonville?
Man, there's more guys at the playoffs with more to prove.
Sam
Darnold. You can say Tomlin with Pittsburgh. You can say
Sam Darnold,
Lamar Jackson with the Ravens. Lamar eventually has to get over the hump. You can't just continue to be the best player in the regular season. And
I'm not worried about them this weekend, though. I'm not worried about them at all. Because, and look, here's the other thing. If you're Pittsburgh, is Justin Fields healthy?
I don't necessarily believe they're going to win.
If he's healthy,
I think it's going to be a much closer game because we're talking about an 8-point spread right now.
I'm not even looking at the spread wall. I'm just looking at both teams. If Justin Fields is healthy, I am probably making the switch. I've kind of seen enough of Russ.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At least
I've seen enough of Najee Harris too. I've seen enough of a lot of stuff on that team.
Hey, look, at least Justin Fields can kind of move around and make some things happen with his legs. So if I'm Pittsburgh,
stronger arm too.
Exactly. So if I'm Pittsburgh, that's the move I'm making. You got Commanders?
He looked like he had a better relationship with Pickens too.
Yeah, I don't. But man, that guy's just problems, man. He's problems, bro.
He is.
Yeah,
he is.
And another knucklehead with the Steelers. You got the Commanders. No one was expecting them to make the playoffs. They're going to be playing in Tampa.
They don't have anything to prove, though.
They don't have anything to prove, no. But I mean, no one was expecting them to be there. Kind of like Houston last year, right?
How about Jordan Love? Is he playing this weekend?
He's hurt. He's on track to play, but I mean, is he 100% healthy? And he said when he got hit, he lost all. He couldn't feel his arm.
Doesn't matter. Still something to prove.
Nick Sirianni, ugly playoff loss last year against Tampa Bay. He's got something to prove, right? I think his coordinators have saved his job. I really do. I thought he was going to be gone last year.
Anybody lose this weekend, you think they're fired? Any playoff coaches?
Yes.
Who? Not Tomlin?
No, I think he's kind of untouchable at this point. Nick Sirianni. If the Eagles lose, you bet your ass that Nick Sirianni is probably going to get fired. Think about all the coaches in these games. Kevin O'Connell's not going to get fired. Is he?
Oh, no.
Dan Quinn's not going to get fired.
It's interesting you bring that. No, he won't either. It's interesting you brought that up because if you go to that division, and I was talking to somebody about this a couple of days ago, you look at Matt LaFleur, I understand the little streak. Well, they didn't win 12 games this year. They bombed out to Chicago the last game of the season, but you also had Aaron Rodgers for 3 of those years. Was it
Yep.
3 years he had him? I get it. You didn't have him last year. You guys made it to, I think, 12 wins last year, but how many opportunities you gonna get to keep falling in behind Detroit and Minnesota? Because Detroit ain't getting weaker. Like even if you feel like, well, you guys are gonna lose coaches and this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen. The head coach is still there, the GM's still there, all of our players are still there. We don't have any major free agents coming up. We wrapping up all of our big name players, and we continue to draft well.
I,
So,
I
and
don't think he's in
Minnesota's
trouble
damn
though.
good.
I don't think he's in trouble though. I really don't. I think his job's safe. Out of all the
Listen, they
coaches,
got swept by the two.
I
You don't want
I
to get swept by. It
I
ain't like they got
understand
swept
that.
by the Bears. Wait, did the Bears beat them? No, the
They
Bears
beat it.
lost the
They
first
no
game.
once. They beat
Yeah,
him once.
you
So,
split with the Bears and got swept by Minnesota and Detroit.
but
What if
look,
that happens next year?
it's not gonna happen next year. I don't think. But I mean, look,
Well, they may not get swept by both teams, but what if it's a possibility that Green Bay isn't better than Detroit or Minnesota next year too?
look. Let me ask you another question before we hop off. Out of all the games this weekend, and I know we haven't really gotten a chance to kind of dissect each game, but where do you see an upset? I already know mine.
I think it's a couple. Let me see if I go to this. Oh, I got the schedule right here. I would honestly say I think Green Bay is capable
That's the
of
one I
going
was
to
thinking.
Philadelphia and beating them, mainly because that's a very talented football team. They're very Jekyll and Hyde though, and if Jordan Love doesn't play, um, Malik Willis does bring a different set of skills to the table. He's way more mobile.
Yeah.
They can still push the ball downfield a little bit with him. But the thing is, whenever they have Malik Willis in the game, the offense tends to run a little more cleaner. Because he doesn't feel comfortable right now because he is the backup quarterback. Malik doesn't feel comfortable taking those same risks, those same gambles that Jordan Love takes, which in return has cost Green Bay a decent amount of games the last couple of years. But I think that's possible. I also believe that people are going to fall, and I don't think it's going to be upset. I think there's going to be a lot of money in Vegas on this game and on this team. And I think people are going to get fooled by it. There's going to be people that are going to see that Denver Bronco Kansas City game, the last game of the season, and they're going to bet on Denver.
Oh, that
And
would be a mistake.
I don't see it happening.
It's not gonna happen.
While Denver, everybody loves Bo Nix, and Bo's been great. Everybody loves Nix and Peyton. Oh, they won X amount of games, and they've done this, they've done that. That offensive line also played a hell of a lot better for Nix in this year than they played for Russ or for anybody else the past couple years.
Anybody? Yeah.
They also didn't beat a single team over 500 this year, except for the Chiefs. So I still question if Denver's ready for this.
Yeah, they're not. I'm just gonna say they're not.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, people are gonna go the other way. You talking about money? Like the same thing you brought up about the Charger game. Like all of the money, everything points.
Everything is telling me that the Chargers are gonna win that game, but I'm gonna take Houston.
I would say this. I believe that if the Chargers do win that game, they won't cover the spread.
No, it's gonna.
That'll never happen. They won't let the Chargers win the game outright and blow out the spread and go over. Vegas will put a for rent sign up in front of the building.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think if Houston does win, it'll probably cover those points.
Yeah, and then
Vegas
also
won't lose too much.
Yeah, and then quick note: the the Vikings and Minnesota Vikings and the Rams game has been moved to Arizona due to the fires in LA. Praying for everyone out there. I know a couple people that have already lost their houses, and it's just a horrible situation. So that game is being moved to Arizona on Monday.
Yep. What do you think about that?
I think it's going to be Detroit. I think it's going to be Detroit, Minnesota round 3. And this game will be closer than the last one. I will say that. I'm not picking the Vikings to win, but I think it's going to be closer.
I think the Rams win that game.
You think so? Why?
Few reasons, man.
Stafford versus Darnold. You take Stafford, right?
Also, if the Vikings do what they should do, which is run the football against that Rams front, they should have more success. But if they allow that young Rams front to just tee off and just blitz all day, they're going to do to them what we did to them last week.
And you know what's going to help them too? If they get the ball to Jordan Addison. Did he have any catches on Sunday?
One for like 11 yards or something like that.
Yeah, come on. You cannot do that and win. So I'll take the Minnesota Vikings. We'll see how much I know. Round 3 coming on next weekend.
Man, get out of here. No. If they win, it all depends. The Commanders are what? 6?
Man, let's just stop right there. They're not gonna win. They're not gonna beat Tampa.
Well, it can happen.
In Philadelphia, I mean, I know I picked the upset would be the Packers against the Eagles, but I mean, I think Philly's strong, so they'll probably win. So they'll probably play Tampa, and you guys probably play Minnesota.
It's a possibility we could play Green Bay and Minnesota, which would be crazy, man.
It would be.
Be wild. Nobody's ever completed the trifecta sweep, though. We beat Green Bay and Minnesota 3 times in the same season.
That's wild. But all right, everyone out there, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you guys hopefully this weekend for Wild Card Weekend. Have a good one.